Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
So let us start the class today. Last class, we discussed an important property of a system which is called transmissibility. Okay. And in transmissibility, we saw that, okay, this TR, which is basically, I can write it as 1 zeta omega by omega n square divided by basically the term that you have been using for RD or RA. The same term is here, okay, in the denominator. So now you have this whole square term, okay, and we saw that transmissibility ratio was coming out to be, okay, the ratio to represent the amplification or reduction in response for several type of excitation or load cases. For example, I could use TR to represent, so if I had a system, spring mass system representation, okay, and I have a mass m and I apply a harmonic load which is P equal to P naught sine omega t. For this case, the transmissibility was whatever the maximum force that is transferred to the support. Okay, so let us call this Ft, which is sum of the spring force and the damper force. So it is the peak value of Ft divided by the peak value of the applied harmonic force. Okay, in the second case, the same ratio could also be used to represent, if let us say I have a ground excitation which is represented as acceleration. Remember, it is represented as acceleration. Okay, and I want to find out, and let us say the total acceleration is ut, not the relative acceleration but total acceleration. Transmissibility can also be used to present the peak value of the acceleration here. Let us call this ut naught, okay, divided by the peak value of ground acceleration. Okay, so if I represent this as ug sine omega t, I can do the same thing. Okay, there was a third case in which the base excitation was not represented in terms of acceleration, but it was represented in terms of displacement excitation. For example, if basically it was like, I gave you an example of a moving vehicle, okay, over a elevated roadway, and due to creep, you get excitation in the vehicle. Okay, so for that cases, let us discuss the third case. Okay, in the third case, if I have the mass, okay, and I represent now the ground excitation in terms of displacement, okay, so that it is ug sine omega t, and again I have the mass, then the total deformation of the this mass, okay, the peak value of the total deformation divided by the peak value of ground displacement, the ratio I can again write it as transmissibility, and we derived those expressions, okay, that how they were coming out as transmissibility. So these cases you need to keep in mind. Okay, so what we are going to do today, quickly discuss two problems. We are going to go over those problems. The first problem is based on this transmissibility that we have just discussed. So what I have basically is the same thing that we discussed. I have a roadway, elevated roadway, in which there is a deflection. Okay, the total deflection is given as 150 mm. Okay, and the span length is given as 30 meters. Okay, and it is said that the roadway profile can be approximated as a sinusoidal with an amplitude of 75 mm with a period of 30 meters. Okay, and a vehicle is actually moving. So in the horizontal direction it is moving, and it has some velocity, let us say v, and because of that the vehicle would experience vertical vibration, horizontal movement but vertical vibration because of the base excitation. So what do you need to do? You need to determine the maximum possible force in this spring. Okay, you need to find out what is the maximum possible force in this spring. Okay, we have already discussed that if you have a problem of this kind, okay, you can represent the ground excitation in terms of displacement as peak ground acceleration times 2 pi velocity, the horizontal velocity of the vehicle divided by the span length by t. So omega is basically this. Okay, so this is your excitation, base excitation. Okay, now you need to find out what is the maximum value of this. Okay, in the spring here. Okay, so take 5 minutes and attempt this problem and let me know the answer. What do you get? And then you can proceed to the second part as well if you're done.
The period is given in 30 meters.
Yeah, what does that mean?
For one cycle it takes 30 meters.
After 30 meter, it repeats itself. That all it means, period. Okay, so when something says like, the period is 30 meter, it means the cycle repeats itself after 30 meter. If you go into sound and wave theory, that represents the wavelength. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, if you've gone through and understand what the problem statement is and tried to do something, I think we should be ready to discuss it. So let us discuss the solution. The first part asks you that what is the maximum value of the force in the spring. Now, if you consider the force in the spring, I can write it as K times ut. This is the force at any time t. Okay, so I can further write this as K times ut. And what is ut? Ut is nothing but u naught sine omega t minus phi. Okay, which I can further write as K rd times ust naught. Okay, this is the u naught, the peak dynamic displacement, times the sine omega t minus phi. Okay, so this is the expression. All right, now if you look at this carefully, the excitation is given to me, u is in terms of displacement. So this is given as u sine omega t, where omega is the excitation frequency which depends on the velocity of the vehicle and the span length. Okay, so in order to get the effective force, remember when I write this like Rd, and ust is nothing but P naught divided by K times sine omega minus t. And for support excitation problem, you know that the P effective is minus P naught sine omega t, or let us say positive, where P naught is minus ug naught. This is how we write it. Okay, so I need to substitute that. However, I don't know what is this. I don't know what is the peak ground acceleration. I know the peak displacement. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take this displacement excitation and differentiate it twice to get the ground acceleration. Okay, so if I do that, I will get this as minus omega ug, so omega square ug, and then sine omega t. Okay, and this I can write it as minus ug naught sine omega t, where this is the quantity which is your peak ground acceleration. So I can substitute back here. Okay, so that I can get P naught as minus m omega square ug. Okay, so then I can substitute in this equation, right? So the maximum value of Fs would be what? The maximum value of Fs would become whatever the coefficient of this one is. So that would be K times Rd times P naught. Okay, so P naught is, and remember ug naught, maybe I should write it like this. Ug naught here is actually negative. Not that it matters, but let me write this anyway. So P effective, which is the minus of this, the minus would become plus. Okay, so I will write this as m, or let me write here m omega square ug divided by k. This whole quantity I'm writing it like this. That is the peak value of the spring force. Now, if you look at this carefully, the amplitude has this term omega square. Okay, so let me write it further. I can write this as k ug naught. I am combining this one, and then it would be omega I have in the denominator. If I bring m to the, omega in the numerator, if I bring m to the denominator, it would become k by m which I can write it as omega by omega n square. So this whole expression, I can write it as this RD. Okay. So the maximum value, now I have already obtained the maximum with respect to time, which is this. But now it is asking me what is the maximum with respect to the velocity at which the force becomes maximum. Now remember, the excitation frequency is 2 pi v by L. So as you increase the velocity of the vehicle, the excitation frequency is going to change. And at some excitation frequency, okay, your force in the spring is going to become maximum. Okay. Now in this case, I have this expression here. Now I know that I have RD and then it is multiplied with omega by omega n square. Now some of you might think, and as I pointed out last class as well, that F0 or the maximum value of this would occur when the RD becomes RD max. However, that is not true because I have the variable here as well. So the maximum of this would occur when this term, this expression becomes maximum. This is constant. Okay, but with respect to the applied frequency, excitation frequency, the Fs would become maximum when this becomes maximum. Okay, so Fs0 is kug0. And what is this term here? Omega by omega n square times Rd. This is acceleration modification factor R of A. All right. So now I can say, and if I consider R of A, then whatever the multiplication is in constant, no variable anymore. So Fs max with respect to the frequency, okay, would be when I get Ra max. Now if you remember, Ra becomes Ra max, okay, when omega is equal to omega n divided by 1 minus 2 zeta square. And here the zeta is 0.4. So you cannot neglect the damping anymore. It is 40%. That's huge. And that is typical of shock absorption system. All shock absorption system, like, you know, in vehicle would have that huge damping in it, in them. Okay. So this is at which the Ra becomes maximum, the acceleration modification factor, and the maximum value of acceleration modification factor is nothing but 2 zeta 1 minus zeta square. Okay, so k is given to you, right? What is the k here? That is given to as 140 kilonewton per meter. So I can write this as 140 kilonewton per meter times ug naught, which is half of the deflection. So it would be 0.075 meters times Ra max, which would be this factor here. Okay. So you can go ahead and calculate this value, okay, and whatever value comes is the maximum spring force. Okay, if that is clear, then the second part is asking you for this problem. Let us go to the second part. What is the velocity v? Okay, in the first pass there is another part. What is the velocity v at which it occurs? So how do I find that velocity? Remember, I already discussed that. Basically, the excitation frequency is a function of the applied the vehicle velocity. Okay, so the maximum response is at omega equal to omega n this much. Okay, so what all I need to do to find out the velocity is equate 2 pi v by L, which is the excitation frequency, to the frequency at which response becomes maximum, and that is 1 minus 2 zeta square. Okay, omega n is known to you as k by m. Okay, it is nothing but 140, okay, divided by 1800 kgs. Okay, so, and there would be 10 to the power 3 here. So you can find out omega n. Zeta is known to you. Okay, L is known to you as 30 meters. So from this expression, you can get the velocity at which your force becomes maximum. Okay, so the learning of this first part of the problem is that do not always think about applying a formula. Okay, because some of you might be thinking how I can use the transmissibility formula in there. Always go from the first principle. Okay, means you should know that how did we come up with that expression. Okay, so that if a problem is there, then you understand the genesis of the problem, and then you can come up with the correct solution and you won't get stuck. Okay, now in the second part of the problem, okay, let us discuss the second part now. Again, I have to find the velocity v that would produce resonant condition for the total displacement u0t. Now we have discussed, now here the transmissibility is going to come into picture. Okay, so transmissibility is what? Peak total displacement divided by the static, or sorry, the ground peak ground displacement. Okay, so ug naught. Okay, so ug naught is constant. Okay, so to maximize ut0, okay, with respect to the applied frequency, I need to maximize this function tr. Okay, so what I'm going to do, this is nothing but 1 plus 2 zeta omega by omega n, okay, square, and again the same expression here. Okay, now we discussed that when does the RA becomes maximum, RD becomes maximum, and RV, this response factor, becomes maximum. However, in this case, you can follow the same procedure. Okay, so you need to differentiate this expression TR with respect to omega by omega n. So let us say you assume that omega by omega n is another variable called R. You differentiate it, equate it to 0. You would find out the ratio for which the transmissibility would be maximum, and that means that your peak displacement, total displacement, would become maximum. Okay, and again, if you find out that ratio, okay, you can substitute this 2 pi p by L to again get the velocity at it, which becomes maximum. Okay, so there in the second part we use this transmissibility, and in many cases we could directly say, let us say damping is 5%, then you could have directly said that TR becomes maximum at omega equal to omega n. Okay, however, in this case damping is 40%, so I cannot make that assumption. I have to differentiate it and find out what is the value. Okay, let us discuss the second example, in which basically, remember we discussed one of the common examples of vibration isolation, that we have sensitive machines kept inside labs which are used to measure something, and we do not want that, like surrounding vibration affects the functioning of this machine. So typically what we do, we put these kind of machine on rubber pads, because rubber pads provide the requisite frequencies, okay, that actually help us to effectively isolate it from the surrounding vibration. So this example focus on that. So what do we have here? A sensitive machine for which the weight is 50 kg. Okay, so let us call this example 2. The weight is 50 kg. Okay, and basically the surrounding vibrations are vibration that can be represented with amplitude 0.1 G, okay, and frequency of 10 Hertz. All right, so this is the surrounding vibration I can represent using these two parameters. And then it is said that this rubber pad has stiffness in the vertical direction as 14,000 Newton per meter. Okay, so what is needed to be found out, that if the surrounding vibration is 0.1 G, okay, if I put this rubber pad here, what would be the acceleration experienced by this? Okay, and I'll tell you why acceleration we are trying to find out. Many of these components, especially like sensitive equipments, they are sensitive to acceleration, because what happens, this acceleration interferes first with the output reading, and second, if it's a mechanical instrument, not electronic instrument, then this mechanical instrument, due to constant vibration, leads to failure of the, as we discussed, joints, or the failure of bolts, okay, which might not seem very obvious in a shorter duration of time, but just imagine the same machine is working for 10 years and with that vibration. So those kind of things we do not want it there. So usually these kind of instrument have certain kind of threshold. They would come with certain kind of threshold, that acceleration experienced to this machine should not exceed certain value, let us say 0.005 G or something like that. Okay, so we want to see if this is the vibration, how much of this vibration is actually getting passed to this system that is there, and then we will see whether it is safe or not. Okay, so do this. Let's find what is the value of the acceleration. Okay. Get me this value. Take 2 minutes and get me this value first. One more parameter I think would be needed is the damping in this one rubber. It can be given the damping can be assume 0.1 or 10%. Okay. Sorry, this is acceleration. I forgot to write the acceleration. This is not displacement. So total acceleration. Okay. Anyone with the answer? Yeah.
So 0.0095 G.
0.0095 G. Close. Okay. So, I mean, this is not, I mean, in terms of concept, there is nothing much to it. In terms of acceleration, we know that if the ground acceleration is given or the support acceleration is given, the ratio to the total acceleration experienced to the mass divided by the ground acceleration is transmissibility ratio. So all you need to do is to substitute the value of zeta and omega by omega n here. Now, applied frequency, excitation frequency, I can directly calculate as 2 times 2 pi f, right? If your frequency is given in hertz, omega is 2 pi f, which is 20 pi. Okay. Now, in this case, natural frequency of the system would be the value of k, which is this here, divided by m, okay, which is 50 kg. So this, and you can calculate what this value is. Okay, so you can substitute those values from here, omega n and omega here, and zeta you know is 0.1 to get this ratio, which I think is coming out to be around 0.1, right? So my total acceleration is 0.1 times the peak ground acceleration, which is 0.1 g. So 0.1 times 0.1 g, which is 0.001 g. Okay, so I saw that because of this rubber pad, although I had a basically surrounding vibration of peak vibration of 0.1 g, it actually reduced it to 10-fold. Okay. Now let us consider a practical situation in which the manufacturer has specified of this machine that the maximum acceleration this machine can take can only be 0.005 g. Okay, sorry, this is not 0.01 g. Okay, so this is the maximum that it can take. So I would like to ask you what kind of solution you would suggest given that I am going to use the same rubber pad. So rubber pad is same. That means my K, the stiffness, and the damping, not the damping. Okay, the damping coefficient would be same. Okay, remember, damping ratio depends on the properties of the structure, m, omega, n. However, damping is a property of the system. This does not change. Okay, so it's a property of material. For example, if it's a steel material, it would have certain damping coefficient. If it's a concrete, it would have certain damping coefficient. And FD is Cu dot. So this is a constant that depends on the material properties. Okay, however, the damping ratio depends on the mass and the frequency of the system. Okay, so given that these two are going to remain same, okay, if I had to decrease this further, what I would like to do? I know that to decrease the acceleration further, I would need to decrease the transmissibility ratio, right? Because if you consider the variation of transmissibility, it's the same damping, starts from here and it goes like this here. I'm right now somewhere around here of certain value of omega by omega. And at this point, okay, whatever the 0.1 transmissibility that I have got, for this value, I'm getting the total acceleration of 0.01 g, which is not acceptable. I want to reduce it further. So as designer, you want to go further on the right side. So you want to further increase omega by omega n. Okay, so that your transmissibility decreases and the total acceleration transferred to the system decreases. So to increase the omega by omega n, remember that excitation frequency is the same. Surrounding excitation frequency is not going to change. Okay. So I need to decrease omega n. So this can be achieved. Okay, so to increase transmissibility, I need to increase omega by omega n, and I need to decrease, okay, omega n. So basically I need to decrease k by m. Now k is fixed because rubber pad is the same. Okay, so the only way to decrease this would be to increase the mass of the system. Okay, and which mass corresponds to that? Okay, so that I can directly find out. Now transmissibility, it is given, I need to have is 0.005 g divided by the peak ground acceleration. So now this is given to me. Okay, this is 0.05. Okay, now I want to find out, okay, mass that would lead to this. So again, I would have this expression here. Okay. And I need to solve this. Now, no, omega is same. Okay, but zeta is now changed. Okay, let us call this zeta 1, and omega is also changed because mass is changing. So the new natural frequency, or the natural frequency of the system would also change. Let us see what are those. Initially, I know that, okay, first let us say 2 zeta omega by omega n can be written as c omega by k. Okay, I can write it like this. Okay, so in this case, remember c and k are the same and omega are the same. Okay, if I write this expression like this, so whatever I had the value of 2 zeta omega by omega n, those are not going to change because my damping coefficient and k are same and omega is also same. Okay, so while individually omega n is changing and zeta is changing, when I take this ratio, okay, the product is actually not changing. So this I can write whatever I had initially obtained. Okay, so initially remember c by k, or let me write it like this, zeta was c by c critical, which can also be written as c omega n by 2k. Okay, so c by k is 2 zeta by omega n. Okay, so this is known to you, 2 times 0.1 times whatever omega n you initially had. Okay, under root 14,000 divided by, in this case I think it was 50 kgs. Okay, so this is going to remain the same. Whatever value you get, you substitute it here and you substitute it here. So 0.05 becomes 1 plus certain value here, 1 minus omega by omega n square plus again that value. Okay, so this becomes like a quadratic equation in omega by omega n. So you can solve it for omega by omega n. Okay, and you can find out the value of omega n for which this expression is satisfied. If you know omega n, you can find out the mass of the system. Okay, that satisfies this expression. Okay, so I have solved this and the mass that I have got is actually 92 kg. So if I increase mass from 50 kg to 92 kg, okay, this looks like 80 kg. 50 kg to 92 kg, my transmissibility decreases and the total acceleration is actually decreases from 0.01 g to 0.005 g, which is within the manufacturer's limitation or prescribed threshold value. Okay, so using this one, you can attach some mass to the operating machinery to make it heavier and you can obtain this. So this is a very realistic example, and actually this procedure is used to come up with, what should be the rubber pad dimensions, or what should be the stiffness or damping, or what should be the mass of the system for which I can install it in a laboratory without being affected by the surrounding vibrations. Okay. All right. Now let us see, we have discussed till now, okay, that for different kind of system, displacement response, velocity response, and acceleration response. Okay, so let us see how do we measure these responses experimentally, because that is another important concept. So what I'm going to discuss is measurement of acceleration, okay, experimentally. Okay, and the instrument that we use to measure this acceleration are called accelerometer. Okay, the concept of accelerometer is very simple. Okay, it is basically a single degree of freedom system, a mass spring system, mass spring damper system, something like this. Okay. Okay. So there is a mass spring damper system inside a small box. Okay. So let us say this is a small box, and inside this, these are the supports, and this can move over this surface. Okay. And this is the damper. This is the K. So this is a simple mass spring damper system. This is the basic layout of a very basic layout of a accelerometer. What happens if you want to measure acceleration at the top of any system or a structure? You basically attach this rigidly. Okay, so this framing is rigid, inside the system is flexible. You take this and you basically you attach it to the point for which you want to measure the acceleration. Okay, this is the basic concept behind the accelerometer. And let us see how do we do that. Okay, now can you imagine, let us say this is the structure, okay, and this is getting vibrated by a, let us say, a ground motion, okay, which might or might not be harmonic. Okay, doesn't matter. Now if you vibrate this would leads to the vibration in the structure, okay, which would basically leads to the acceleration at different points in the structure. Now if I want to measure the acceleration at the top of the structure, okay, again here the structure would have some kind of vibration, and that is what we want to measure, right? This is the point that we want to measure. So this is for a structure. We can take an acceleration and we can keep it on the ground as well. Okay, same system, we can keep it on the ground so that I can measure the ground acceleration history. So the idea is at whichever point you want to measure the acceleration, you just attach this system. Okay, this systems, bolt it rigidly or attach it using some rigid system to that point. Okay, so what happens? Basically, the problem again becomes same, that if it is attached rigidly, okay, and these are the rigid support, if this moves with the same acceleration. So basically it becomes a system like this, okay, in which basically excitation is provided, which is, let us say, ug of acceleration ug double dot t. Okay, and for this kind of system, and don't worry about this damper being on the left and right side. I mean, in terms of forces and displacement, does it really matter? It does not matter. Okay, whether you keep it on the left or the right side. Okay, so in this case, if you want to measure the acceleration at which the support is vibrating through this spring mass damper system, okay, this is the same problem that we have discussed. Okay, the amplification of the response due to support excitation. And what was the ut for this system? Okay, the ut for this system was basically u naught times sine omega t minus phi. Okay, and this u naught I can write it as rd times m omega square. Okay, so here in this case p naught was minus m omega square ug double dot. So this is I'm going to write. Okay, all right, and then there is a k term below. So this is basically rd p naught by k, u naught I'm writing it as. Okay, so this I can write is as rd ug naught divided by omega n square. Okay, this is the amplitude of the motion. Okay, and then I have this sine term here, omega t minus phi. Okay, so this is what I am trying to measure. Okay, and let us see how do we do that. Okay, how do we measure this? Now, the basic property of an accelerometer should be that doesn't matter, okay, which kind of structure it is attached to, okay, it should not get amplified for different type of RD. Okay, so the idea is that whether you attach it to here or you attach it to here, it should measure the same acceleration, not same acceleration, but it should not depend on the flexibility of the system itself. Okay, so the idea is what we want to do. Okay, so the acceleration, let me first combine it like this. Okay, I will write it as this negative sign, no negative sign here, RD, negative sign I've taken here, so negative sign is here, omega n square. Okay, and the second part I'm going to write it as, I'm going to take omega common. Okay, so this is here sine omega t minus omega by phi. I'm going to write it like that, and this whole thing I want to write it as time history function u t minus phi by omega. Okay,